Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, aka Christian, with none other than the man, the myth, the 3.5-foot legend, Karl Bryan.
I'm getting shorter, Shoots.
You are, but you know what? The stilts make you at least 5'6". So there you go.
Nice. There you go. What's going on, Road Dog? What's happening in Road Dog's world?
Lots, bud. Just absolutely lots going on. Gonna get more involved in a little political manner and locally here. I'm gonna try and I'm fighting the good fight for youth sports in this community, which was going to require me shattering one man's fragile ego, but it will be fun, and I believe $1 million lawsuit will probably gather his attention. So good times ahead.
I might leave that right there. Shoot, sounds like, well, let's keep us updated.
Yeah, it's gonna be, dude. It's gonna be fun. It's what was interesting though, because this is all in regards to soccer facilities, indoor soccer facilities up here in Kelowna. And what I never factored in was second series of consequences, right? Second order of consequences. So by us, as my soccer club that I'm a part of, not being able and granted access to one facility because they deem us to be competition, we now have to go rent space from a school gym. Well, I was at my daughter's strength and conditioning training last Wednesday, and I was talking to a coach there, and he coaches basketball. And he was like, man, this really burns me up because we cannot, for basketball, find gym space. So there's your second order of consequences, right? So I'm like, okay, now where are they going? What's the third order? Where are they going to now rent space, which is now robbing space for somebody else? It's amazing how deep things run, but how much we typically don't factor these things in. So anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Dominoes, ladies and gentlemen, when you do one thing in your business, it's very little about that one thing. You got to think, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? And
exactly. There you go. There you go. Cool. Hey, listen, I'm just going to dive right in. Obviously, you do a ridiculous amount of content, including, of course, your prime crowning jewel, which is this podcast, which, like, let's not kid ourselves, it's just me supporting you, is really what it is. I'm just, propping you up here. But anywho, it's a lot of propping to do, but it's a good thing you're short and light. Now, with all of those emails that you send, right, like the amount of content that you put out, is there a favorite quote from a recent, I was going to say just email, but even from one of your YouTube or here or wherever, is there a favorite quote that you have from a recent sort of anything that you shared?
Don't know. So okay, I better give an answer here quick. What's that? You couldn't heal because you were pretending you weren't hurt. I think there's a lot of value in that, right? Like personally, but also, for your business. Like think of the marketing guy or the business coach that sucks at generating leads. Pretending it's not a thing is not going to solve the thing, right? So hit it head on, but you couldn't heal because you kept pretending you weren't hurt. It might be a little bit different than that, but that's the premise well and truly. Here's something, I don't know if this was a quote, but over the weekend, I'm thinking a lot, just kind of asymmetrical risk reward. A better way of saying that in layman's terms would be small hinge that waves a big door. What's got low risk and big returns? Again, uh, okay, so an investor, a professional investor has rules. Okay, what's the difference between an amateur investor and a professional, or an amateur business owner and a professional business owner? You're going to find rules. And by the way, if you want an example of that, Road Dog, you just mentioned soccer, right? Like again, I don't need to be heavily involved in soccer to know that you go to the match and there's a rule book, whether it's your 11-year-old's daughter game or you're watching Ronaldo with 100,000 people in the stadium. The first principles of a sport is the rule book, right? So again, asymmetrical risk reward dictates sorry, I was going to professional investor. If an investor doesn't feel like they're going to get a 5x return at absolute minimum, they won't put their money in harm's way. So that's one of their rules. Does that mean that every investment they make, hits a home run and they get a 5x on it? Absolutely not, because they know that despite their rules, they are going to have some swing and misses. Why? Because business is complicated, and Warren Buffett will tell you anybody who says it's not complicated or complex is an idiot. So it's not always going to go as planned. So that being said, if you got a 5x return, do the math, and you only got to hit 2 out of 10, and you're looking pretty good. So anyway, so asymmetrical risk reward, so starting like this podcast, again, this podcast has done very well. I got to tell you, very, very low risk, right? It was some time. Hey, Road Dog, want to show up and field some questions for me? Here we are, many, 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 I don't even know, but a couple hundred episodes later, here we are. So anyway, so asymmetrical risk reward, doing a talk at the local chamber, very low risk, very high reward. Organizing 10 people to the local chamber and doing your first event. Yes, maybe you'll make a meal of it. Maybe those people are going to leave and go, oh my gosh, I just lit 2 hours on fire spending it with that guy or gal. But at the end of the day, it's a very low risk, high reward dynamic. So anyway, just thinking about different things, as you become more successful in business, you'll see that it doesn't make sense to take on things that really can't hit a home run. And no, you won't always hit a home run, but that will stop you, from chasing around, chasing multiple rabbits kind of thing. So again, create some rules around it would be kind of a hack. I said this in Cancun, and in fact, I said this to somebody last week, and they kind of liked it and then sent it back to me in a text message. But it said, you have dreams to pursue, not people to impress. Road Dog, I think that's got some value. Look, I don't know, Road Dog. Those are some, I think that's what we're looking for. Might be helpful for those listening. But I would tell you that quotes, what you should really do is not listen to me, but go to the greats of the greats. Remember, very uncommon to be two things, and that is old and rich. So when Warren Buffett speaks, Charlie Munger speaks, Ray Dalio speaks, I think that you should listen. Because they are old and rich, important. Lots of old people, lots of rich people, but old and rich at the same time is rare. So one of the things that they'll say is it's not how hard you row, it's the boat that you're in. What they mean by that is the industry. Like we talked about that a little bit in the last whatever number of episodes, but if you went into Bitcoin 3 years ago, you were the smartest guy ever, right? You couldn't miss. You could be dumb as a doorknob, and you would have crushed it. It wasn't you. It was the industry. It was the you know what I mean? It was cryptocurrency that was, riding like a wave to shore. And now all of a sudden you're not looking quite as smart. Does that mean that your IQ dropped? No, it's the market shifted. So looking at the market, looking at the trend, as opposed to how hard you're going to work on your boat or your industry. Of course, if you do both, if you work very, very hard in a fast boat, that would be a good idea. What's another one? Warren Buffett says that he looks for something he can buy for a penny, sell for $1, and that is habit forming. Just that quote takes my breath away. It's that intelligent. Again, it just buy it for a penny. What I said a minute ago, asymmetrical risk reward, buying it for next to nothing, sell for $1. What he's saying there is insane margins. When you buy something for a penny and sell it for $1, your margins are obscene. Most people are buying something for a penny and trying to sell it for 2 pennies and then wondering, why they don't do so well. And then habit forming. Look at Facebook, habit forming. YouTube, habit forming. Gum, habit forming. Chewing tobacco. When I played hockey, I always chewed tobacco. Again, insanely habit forming. Anyway, so habit forming is important. And Rhoda, just our boy Jeff Bezos, right? What he says is that a raving fan doesn't send a support ticket. And again, I'm probably making a meal of that, but that's effective. What he's saying, like, so what we do internally here is when we get a support ticket, we try to reverse engineer it, um, and then make it so that we don't see that support ticket again, right? Always possible? No, but that's effectively a process we have. And then always, another thing that Bezos will say, this will be the last one I'll do here, Road Dog, but always day one. It's always day one at Amazon. And what he means by that is that what happens to big companies? They become like the Titanic, right? Like a massive ship in the middle of the water, and then they're coming towards an iceberg. And because they're so big and so much momentum, they can't do a left or a right. They can't avoid the iceberg. And then what happens? Everybody drowns, right? So that is always day one, I think, is and again, for these direct quotes, like just, hopefully you're getting the premise. I'm not trying to just give you quotes here. I'm trying to give you the premise behind them. So there you go, Road Dog. How was that? Anything you'd add?
Yeah, I would add, if you don't play to win, don't play at all. That's nice. A quote from your favorite male quarterback of all time, Mr. Tom Brady. There you go. Nice. And listen, you know why I never understood why I listened to you, but now you've made it very clear. I get it, because you're both rich and old. So there it is. That's why I listen to you, Shoots. There it is.
Nice, Shoots.
See well done. It's like it's sort of like a backhanded compliment, folks. That's how it works in this show. One of the favorite quotes that you shared that I love is, if you lend somebody money, make sure you lend them enough. Something like that. Is that how it goes?
Nice. That's my old man. Yes. There you go.
Love that. It's no different than like just investing in anything, right? Like if you're going to invest in your marketing or whatever, it's like just like don't invest for the next week, right? Like be committed for what it's actually going to take to deliver the result that you're after. And that's
Warren Buffett will say he won't invest in a stock that he doesn't want to own for at least a decade. And quite frankly, he will say that he doesn't invest in a company that he doesn't want to own forever, right? Mm-hmm. So different way of thinking, very different way of thinking than the average bear.
Listen, last week we were discussing discounting. And obviously an interesting conversation, because you typically hate discounting, but yet you love things at a discount. Interesting. Anyways, I'm guessing that there are some, sort of particular scenarios where you'd actually encourage it, and situations which I would imagine far outweigh the opposite, but you can prove me wrong, where you would discourage it. Can you give some examples of each?
Okay. Well, look, you've always got options, right? Consider whether they need to offer the discount to their entire market, or if they can segment it and limit the offer to those who need it. Like, for example, an offer to existing clients or members of your, let's say you got a customer loyalty program, could serve your objectives without going to the public, right? So again, treating, different, like having like a little, silo in your database. And, do you have to offer a discount to stay competitive, right? Or can you create a new product line that will have longer term impact on the competition and increase market share, right? Like, can the market afford what they're selling right now, or is it a seasonal offering regardless of the discount? You need to time the offer correctly, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, January is generally a rough financial month for most consumers, right after Christmas. So your discounts will be focused on moving old stock, not necessarily increasing sales volume. Or maybe, like another example, North Americans in July and August are going away, right? So adjust accordingly. And then, by the way, if your database is in Australia, your clients are in Australia, the equivalent of July, August is like December, January, right? And if you didn't realize that, you didn't know that, you might make a ghastly error and do a big promotion at the wrong time of the year. And, subsequently your discount, your big offer might not fall the same. Maybe road dog, probably like winter clothing, right? Snow skis at the beginning of winter. Look, it's a bad idea, right? Just a way to make less money. Whereas discounting winter clothing, snow skis, snowmobiles in the summer is probably a really good idea. And what are you going to be doing? You're going to be moving dead stock, and you're going to be making room for next year's inventory, right? And then another thing to be thinking about too as you're doing this, like, what does the model look like? Remember, I think it was last week or the week before we talked about Tesla versus Ford. The Tesla model, like, are you selling your wares online and then you don't need to have massive stock? But remember, Tesla, you walk into a Tesla dealership, it's downtown New York, downtown LA, downtown Vancouver, Sydney, London, and there's like 5 cars and a computer, and then you pick your car, you design it, and then it gets shipped to you, right? Versus Ford, many acres and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vehicles without looking at the, you don't need to walk into the 2 dealerships to know that Ford is, letting go of some stock when the 22 or the 23 2023 new, cars come out. What are they going to do to the 22s and most certainly the 21s that are still brand new? They got to run them out, right? So the model that, like, are they selling online is what I'm getting at. And again, probably not right now. And the question is, could they find a way? And what they're actually doing, by the way, is making double margins. Think about this. The internet is the middleman. Okay. So by selling direct to consumer online, effectively what you're doing is making a double margin, or able to discount and make higher margins than you would otherwise with the middleman, right? Some nuances there, clearly, but not too. Yeah, those are some of the things I'd be thinking about. Maybe questions that I'd ask, like, before you make your decision, right? How deep does the discount need to be to have the desired effect? That might be a question you need to throw out there. Or how much can they afford to discount? Like, again, look at their margins and then go, okay, well, hang on, you don't want to be, losing money. And if you were going to be losing money, you'd have to have a real good reason for doing it. And that would be just to run out the stock and just open up counter space for, other more popular inventory and get the superseded stuff out. Do they need to discount all products equally? Again, having a 50% off sale on the front window. I mean, again, is that necessary for everything in there? A lot of less experienced retailers have done that in the past and really just found what they're doing is they're not getting rid of their old stock, and then they end up selling some stuff they otherwise could have sold for full margin for half price, and not a good idea. Can they use coupons to code the offer? Like, again, have a certain phone number or have an affiliate, what I mean, like a specific link, so that they can track all of that stuff. So anyways, those are some of the, some of the things I'd be thinking about. And by the way, discounting, I should definitely say this, like, you've got 50% off, 2 for 1, or buy one, get one free, right? 50% off, 2 for 1, buy one, get one free. They're all fundamentally the same discount, but the buy and get one free will beat the others hands down. Okay, so buy one, get one free is going to beat 50% off and 2 for 1 every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And then, by the way, you'll see, like, you go to Mexico and you'll see this. I can't remember the name of the watches, but they would have buy one and get 2 free, buy one and get 3 free in some cases. But when you did the buy one, get 3, it wasn't all of the watches. It was like specific ones. So there you go. I don't know. That's just be strategic when you're discounting, for sure. And remember, people get addicted to discounts. We say this last week. People get addicted to discounts. They don't get addicted to free, right? So careful when you're doing discounts. So if you own the local bar and the regulars come in and you wipe off 20%, significantly, like, it's a bad idea in comparison to here, you're the owner of the bar and you just bring over 4 shots or 4 rum and cokes or 4 beers or whatever for the 4 guys to the table and say, this one's on the house, this one's on me. The first pitcher is free. They'll do that for our hockey team, right? Like, they go to the bar and then the first pitcher is free, right? But, wiping 10% off, 20% off, generally speaking, not a good idea, because, again, they'll get addicted to the discounts. So, and maybe like the business model that they're using, like I mentioned earlier, like the middleman is Like the internet is the middleman, right? Like Road Dog, like what's the business model when you kind of rise above 30,000 feet and looking at it? So maybe like before discounting, I would definitely do a little bit of a stock take, what I would refer to as the little red arrow. You are here. Like if I was going to coach your business, the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, with 100% certainty when I first start, when I go in, what I'm doing is I'm assessing the little red arrow, you are here. Okay, I'm assessing that. And then the second thing that I'm doing is I'm getting a point that you want to get to so that, again, I understand. Because remember, not everybody wants the same thing. You want a 7-figure business, they're semi-retired and just want to make 150 grand a year and watch their kids, watch their grandkids, be able to, travel. Like, and again, that will come back to freedom, by the way. Business coaches, business owners, they got into it for freedom in a roundabout way: time freedom, lifestyle freedom, financial freedom. So understanding what it is that motivates them and where they want to get to would be important. So then the coaching is, basically bringing those two destinations together. Like you don't want to be the best, you want to be the only, right? So again, before I come in there, Road Dog, and I'm like helping you discount to move out some inventory, I want to really get an assessment as to where you're at and how I can jack things up, right? So anyways, those are some of the thoughts around discounting. I get it, from last week, but, careful with that. Be strategic. That's the business owner when left to their own devices. They will lower their prices and add products and services. If we look at the most successful company of all time, that would be Apple, and they have premium prices and very few products and services. In other words, their spidey instincts, their natural instincts will take them in the exact opposite direction of debatably the most successful business of all time, which would be Apple. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer to that.
So just when it comes to discounting, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, because people like to obsess with it, right? And it's interesting because like what percentage do you think you actually have to discount to get someone's attention?
Look,
because 10% is a who cares, right? Like ultimately.
So again, because they don't understand how to read financial statements, don't understand margin. Why? Because they don't understand how to run a business. They'll throw around 50% here, there, and everywhere, right? So this is why you'll see anybody worth their chops in business will always say add value as opposed to lower prices or discount. But that being said, Road Dog, like I said, there's like understanding that buy one, get one free will significantly outpull the 50% off. Understanding that is critical. But I'm going to say that, look, buy one, get one free is where I would, if they damned and determined that's where they got to go, I would go there, right? Buy one, get one free. And then that will raise eyebrows. That will bring in traffic. That will increase sales. But again, there's a better way, there's a better way. That's my answer.
All right. So when it comes to, I guess I'm just looking at it from the coach's perspective, right? It's like I'm dealing with my clients and maybe we're having conversations about discounting and helping them sort of understand that. And they're, they may be in a pinch to try and get some sales, blah, 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 blah. Can you give an example of using I guess sympathy versus empathy when dealing with coaching clients? You know what I mean? Like sort of
Yep.
a fine line, if you will, but like what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, my thoughts are okay. Well, first let's define sympathy. Look, let me give you an example: sympathy versus empathy. Road Dog is throwing up on a boat, right? Sympathy is me coming and throwing up with him, right? Empathy is I get his wife, I bring him a glass of water, get a blanket, put it around his shoulders. This would, the chance of this happening, very remote. Road Dog, remember the time you rode on the back of my Sea-Doo Shoots? I feel like we should be talking about that.
There's nothing to talk about. I did not put my arms around you. It'll never happen. As much as you tried to intentionally make sure that I landed in the lake, it did not happen, and there's no way. I'm not sure. Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole other podcast.
Sympathy versus empathy, right? So Road Dog's puking on the side of the boat. I'm throwing up with him. Empathy is that I'm like, Road Dog, shoot, man, you're seasick. Here's a gravel. Your wife's here. Here's the blanket. Put him to bed. Put, a pot beside him so he's got a barf and a glass of water. Like, that's empathy, right? So what I mean by that, when you're a client, when you're like, you go to $3,000 a month for your coaching and you've been 1,000 for like 3 years, when he says, I can't afford it, sympathy is, yeah, I know, I can't afford it either, right? Empathy is, look, man, I get it, but are you just going to stay in the same spot? Are you going to keep doing what you've been doing? Are you happy with where you're at? Like, just get it. And what Zig Ziglar would say is, when he sold pots and pans back in the day, he knew if somebody was going to be successful if they bought the pots and pans. If they didn't sacrifice for their own family and spend the money to get their own family hooked up with these pots and pans, they weren't sold on the pots and pans, and therefore, they weren't sold on them. So if you're not sold, you can't sell it, is the saying, right? So here's a question, right? That's why we know that people sign up with us. Magically, they become more successful in a big bad way. All of a sudden, guess what they've done? They've taken us on as their coach, as their mentor, right? Like, they're all of a sudden, they whip out their credit card and show that I'm serious about getting ahead. So the question is, have you sacrificed? Have you followed? Have you paid for a coach? Have you paid for a mentor, right? It's like, when somebody hums and haws and that sort of thing. And again, sympathy, I said this on one of my YouTube videos, right? And it's like, you're not skeptical, you're gutless. Like, say that and mean it, right? Like, believe me, people want to be led. That's the truth, right? They don't want to follow, or they do want to follow. They don't want to lead. They want to be led. Remember, when you get on a horse, the horse knows who's in charge long before you do, right? So you could, and maybe here's something, Road Doug, like, you can move people in a few different ways, right? So I want you to think like 3 levels: action, motivation, and then identity. Think Tony Robbins 101. So like, action level is I get you to do something, right? Motivational level is I get you to do it with a bit of a why. So in other words, it's got some meaning. But if I go to identity, I change who you are at a fundamental level, everything shifts, right? And that's one of the beauties of becoming a business coach, because what happens is, like, the guys and gals who get it, and not everybody gets it, right? This is not the easiest thing in the world to do, right? First one to tell you that. But when you become a business coach, a business consultant, a mentor at your core, oh my goodness, like, your identity shifts in a very real and tangible way, and who you become. Like, okay, well, what happens is you become a business coach and you start solving problems, and you'll think to yourself, where in the world did I come up with that? Well, what happened is we shifted your identity. That's what happened, right? So you want to move people, not just at like an action level and get them to do it, not just the motivational level where they're like, you know what, I'm really pumped up and I'm going to do this for my daughter and I'm going to do this for financial freedom. When you change who they are and turn them into a successful person in their being, which will not happen overnight, but it does tend to, kind of all of a sudden just happen. And nobody notices, by the way. Again, like, when you become wealthy, I had this conversation on the weekend, like, when you become wealthy, you speak to somebody who's wealthy, it's not like all of a sudden a different feeling. Believe me, I can introduce you to very, very wealthy people, and they will tell you that they are paranoid at a very high level. They do not feel wealthy in a lot of ways. They feel successful and they've got an identity about them, generally, not always, but generally speaking. But I can tell you that it's not all of a sudden this feeling that, wow, all of a sudden I'm wealthy because I'm worth, 5 schmil, 10 schmil, whatever the number is for you. Anyways, the identity, who you are, when you shift that for your clients, you shift that with your coaching clients, with your prospects, with the attendees at your local live event, you shift who they are. This is when you start getting referrals on steroids and people saying it's too good to be true, all that sort of stuff in a good, positive way, right? So again, look at what level are you moving people, right? Like Nike commercials, think like Nike commercials, Apple commercials. They're not about the product, right? They don't even mention the products. And Nike isn't mentioning that the sole is better than Reebok's, or Apple's not, mentioning that their computer, their laptop is better than HP's or somebody else's, right? They're aspirational. It's a celebration. You look at their ads and they're a celebration of people, and very, very visual, as opposed to, it's showing as opposed to telling, right? So like the type of people Apple and Nike want to be associated with are in the ads, right? So, and the type of people its audience and clients want to be associated with. So, like Apple, think of the debatably the greatest commercial of all time, but it was like Apple. They had Gandhi, Richard Branson, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, Einstein, Amelia Earhart, the what is it, the crazy ones, right? And then Nike. Think of the people that they put in their commercials for years. Back in the day, there was Agassi, and there's Michael Jordan, there's Serena Williams, there's Nadal, LeBron, Ronaldo, right? Like those are the types of people that they want to be associated with their brand, and the kind of people that their clients, their ideal clients, want to be associated with, right? So when I wear, whether you realize it or not, when you put on a pair of Air Jordans, a little piece of you feels like, you're getting a little bit of his magic, and you probably, if, Road Dog, me, and everybody else are just like in love with the guy, right? Like, he's just a total legend. So like with Steve Jobs, when he took back over Apple, his goal was to turn the company into an aspirational company. And remember, it started with two words: think different, right? Think different. Nothing to do with, like, what in the world does that have to do with computers, right? The answer is very little. Think different. And then he puts, and it's Einstein, it's Muhammad Ali, etc. So yeah, shoots. Maybe, is this relevant? Okay, when you tell your story, right? So you get up on stage and you're going to tell your story. What you want them to do, you need them to say, me too. And if they don't say me too, they're saying, so what? Right? Like the number of times that I'll write an email and then I'll get somebody to reply. It happened this morning, but somebody says that they feel like my email is speaking directly to them, right? It happens all the time. So it's me too or so what? Again, like me too, Muhammad Ali, Einstein, Agassi, Jordan, Serena Williams, Nadal, etc. It's like, you want to be a little bit like them. When you tell your story, what do you have to do when you tell your story? You got to bring yourself down and then prop yourself back up. You don't start with propping yourself up. Or again, it's not going to be me too. It's going to be so what? Because they're not, you know what I mean? They're probably not in the room if they're achieving these lofty successes. And by the way, even if they are achieving these lofty successes, that's like what I said a minute ago. They don't feel that way, right? Anyways, so me too or so what? I think that there's relevance there. But Nike's goal was to become, Steve Jobs, when he took over Apple, he wanted to turn the company into an aspirational company. And again, he used the two words, think different. I think that there's some serious magic in that, Road Dog. Hang on, Road Dog, just before I finish, and see, when you're generating leads too, so there's tactical, strategic, and then spiritual based. And what I mean by that is when you promote, hey, if you see somebody advertising for more leads, they'll get lots of opt-ins. And then you see somebody advertising with a strategic offer, and we'll call that, differentiate your business coaching company. It's kind of lame, but whatever, that would be more strategic. They're going to get less opt-ins, but generally speaking, a higher quality. And then a spiritual based, let's call that become the best business coach you can be. And one of the things we do, like, so internally, it's how to read financial statements. We're doing that training again here very shortly. It's an internal thing. If you're not a client, you can't get access to it. But what that's going to do, like, it will bring in, it's not the sexy delusional Facebook ad kind of, get leads in your sleep, blah, 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 blah kind of promotion, but it's going to attract a higher quality prospect as opposed to, or a higher quality coach, right? Because a coach that really doesn't see themselves as a superstar isn't really worried about being able to read financial statements, whereas somebody who really wants to become the best business coach they can be, they may say to themselves, I suck at numbers, I suck at accounting, accounting's just not me, I'm not a numbers guy, I'm not a numbers gal, but they will push through that and say, look, I got to become the best business coach I possibly can be, and understanding how to read financial statements in a very real and tangible way to find my fees before I even get started with my new coaching client is something that I need. And I don't need it for me, I want it on behalf of my clients. And again, that's where the identity comes in. Right? We shift who they are. They start doing things for their clients as opposed to doing things for themselves. I don't know. I think there's real power in that, but it's not as sexy of an offer. So you'll get less opt-ins, but you get a higher quality. So you got tactical offers, strategic offers, that I call spiritual offers, going to the spirit of somebody, their identity. I think huge value in that shoot. So that's my answer, bud. What do you think?
Well, just on that, I literally was checking the stats for a client I'm running some ads for, and the emotional appeal so overlooked. I've never seen numbers like talk about. I found the exact right audience because the emotional appeal that I threw out to them, it was pretty much every single person that clicked on that ad clicked through to the landing page. I've never seen that before. Like I was within 98%. I've never seen that before. Like that, it's huge. And by the way, speaking of the, you feel better like in your Jordans because you feel like there's a piece of Jordan in you and all that stuff. I'm not sure if it's too soon to announce your new launch of your sweatpant line. I'm not sure if that's is that too soon to announce? Maybe
A little
launch a pair of sweatpants, everybody, so you can feel. Just the problem is they're only in child sizes, so there is that.
Cool. There's a picture of Jordan on one bum cheek, a picture of maybe Tom Brady on the other bum cheek.
I thought the Brady would be at the front. Anyways, there's that. I thought you'd appreciate that. Hey, listen, you talked about pushing people, right? In terms of like moving people and all that. Choose to take it to whatever level you want. We can bring it back up just to business in general. But have you found like just being aggressive is a better way to quote unquote play than being helpful? Like, what are your thoughts on? Because again, it's everybody says it's like got to add value, got to help people, blah 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 blah. But is there a time where it's just like, yeah, no, screw that, it's time to be aggressive? Like, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Aggressive, yeah. It's a good one. Times a million, I'd adopt, and I have adopted the rule of reciprocity, is what I'm thinking. Like when I sold coaching, I did marketing events and marketing boot camps locally. They're educational. I'd like to think they were entertaining. Again, music, dancing, getting people up, telling jokes, making fun of myself, making fun of them in a what I mean, in a good way, not like poking fun at people, like, but like when somebody says something or before the show here, we do name envy, right? That kind of thing, but just having a little bit of fun. I think they provided huge value, and some people like pretty much just threw money at me. Like, that's just the truth, right? Some people were seminar junkies, just followed me around, right? And I don't know, they were trying to steal clients in some cases, and others just kept, I don't even know. They just kept coming back. It was the same jokes every time, but whatever. And again, I didn't deviate. I didn't worry about that, right? I had a job to do. And my job wasn't, if they'd been 4 times already, I wasn't going to adjust my jokes for these guys. Didn't make any sense. It's like, hey, they must like the stuff. I just kept going. So that's something to think about in terms of what are those, like rule of reciprocity. Don't do events for you. Do the events for the local community, for the local business owners, because they're hurting, because they're lowering their prices, because they're discounting, because they're doing 50% off and not realizing what it's doing to their margins, which the answer would be crushing them. But like deterrent strategy, I had, I played some hockey in my day, right? Small guy, I'm 5'6", and I played against guys that were 6'6" a lot of the time, right? Had a bit of a big mouth and a propensity for sticking up for myself, and in some cases, teammates. It was a bad combo. Bottom line, I wasn't, shy to kind of shake it up a little bit, but I remember watching the Michael Jordan documentary, right? And he had this rivalry with Clyde the Glide Drexler. And what happened is it upset Jordan to even be compared with him, right? So the story goes that Clyde had a great 3-point shot, right? And someone asked Jordan prior to game 1, right? So they've gone through the Eastern and Western finals, right? And then somebody asked Jordan prior to game 1, what about the 3-pointers, right? And the journalist was insinuating that Clyde had his number in that part of the game. And then Jordan replied something to the effect of, I choose not to shoot 3-pointers, right? Well, game 1 of the finals, and it's right there for you. You could go and watch this, right? But game 1 of the finals, where both teams were kind of establishing ground. It's early in the series. Game 1 is, you're kind of, you're establishing ground. And keep in mind, they're playing for the NBA championship. So this isn't the local scrimmage, right? Well, Michael Jordan broke the NBA record in the first half for hitting 3-pointers, right? Need I tell you who won the game? And not to mention the NBA championship that year, right? So maybe like consider it this. It may seem strange, but it's exactly what, like I mentioned, hockey, the toughest hockey players uses their playbook, right? So every day, every team back in the day would have a goon, right? Like a buddy of mine was a goon and a real good one. He was the kind of guy that could put the puck in the net, but he'd also scrap anybody. Not a huge guy, but he'd just go anybody. But at the end of the day, the goon's job is to fight and defend their teammates if anyone acted up, right? Also used to create energy for a team, right? Because after a big fight, the place, the fans are absolutely rocking. The players tend to get up and bang their sticks. The whole place gets amped up, and it can really shift momentum one way or the other, right? Like nobody sits during a fight, right? You know what I mean? Like nobody sits during a fight. So there's some deterrence, in that, right? In that they're not shy. So they've got to use intimidation as a way to do it, right? Or maybe so a buddy of mine served in the military, right? And like hockey players, Michael Jordan and the military have all that in common, right? Where again, it's like deterrence, it's reverse intimidation. And I don't want compare Michael Jordan's approach in game 1 of the NBA finals against Clyde the Dry Drexler, and maybe the military, but like think about this. Here's what I'm trying to get at. Deterrence, like they want to, my buddy the goon, right? Want to seem unpredictable and irrational, right? Don't want to allow your opponent to see a pattern in your movements, right? You want them to think you're irrational and that a close encounter on you could be like a really risky move, right? Like again, so that's why when there's an enforcer skating around the rink, you're a lot less likely to go after the smaller elite player on a hockey team. And then just think about what that might mean to, it's like, in baseball, how do they do it? They establish ground by throwing inside. And what do they follow up, a inside pitch with? A pitch outside, right? Like it's kind of one-on-one, but you don't always want to shoot to the, pitch to the inside, and you don't always want to pitch to the outside, most definitely, right? So being unpredictable and irrational would be like good advice. Play on their natural paranoia. Believe me, everybody has it. But like indirectly inform your opponent of your strengths. The more unclear I think the information is, the more paranoid they will be. Like again, so just kind of scooting around, think about how you use your eyes as a pitcher, as a hitter. As somebody whose job is to fight in hockey, maybe that's in the warm-up, right? Or use the element of surprise by using a bold maneuver. Like take risks in the presence of your enemy or like your opponent that highlight your strength rather than your weakness. Remember Russia, right? Like when Russia just invaded the Ukraine, did anybody know? Like they were saying, we're not doing it, we're not doing it, we're not doing it. And did they do it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or do they do it at midnight, right? Again, nobody knows. And they do it in the middle of the night when hopefully some folks are sleeping, right? So that's the way, again, as you're thinking about this, like with your business coaching, you want to be a little bit, I don't know, you want to be a little bit unpredictable, right? You want your clients to be a little bit unpredictable. If again, what we're talking about here is, being super, what do I want to say? Like just super easy to get along with. You want your competition to think that you might be a little bit ruthless, right? Look, what am I trying to say? Michael Jordan had an intimidating reputation. And things like saying before the game, I choose not to shoot 3-pointers, and then breaking the NBA record in the first half. What do you think Clyde the Glide is thinking? And basically, the Bulls absolutely crushed them. And then it has a compounding effect, right? Because you get on top of them. In hockey, a really good goalie can also do this. In baseball, a really good pitcher can do this. You could have a great pitcher and everybody else could be totally out to lunch and, they hardly get the ball. So at the end of the movie, the founder, we talked about that a couple of times. Maybe if my competitor, what does he say at the end? If my competitor was drowning, I'd find a hose, stick it in his mouth, and then can you say the same, right? And he said that to the McDonald's brothers. They basically said, Uncle, they realized this guy's never going to let up. He's got us right where he wants us. And, they sold to Ray Kroc, and the rest is absolutely history. Am I in any way saying that you should be ruthless in business and that aggressive? No, I'm not. But I would say that there's a lot of business owners out there trying to pretend like, this is, playing Lego. Like, business is war. And you best approach it in that manner, in my opinion, in that, be competitive. Look at what the most competitive people in the world are doing, i.e. Jordan, being unpredictable, being irrational, playing on natural paranoia of their competition, right? Using the element of surprise and using a bold maneuver. Maybe that's a big promotion. Maybe that's a sign out the front, whatever that might be. But, and again, are you like if there's local business coaches locally, again, I would want them to know that I'm serious, right? And that I am not to be mucked about, and I am going to go get coaching clients, and I am going to move the needle with my clients. And I am going to be running local live events, and I'm going to be promoting myself heavily, and that I'm going to be growing. And that if they wanted to compete with me, they are free to do so. But I'm going to be a real force locally, and they best keep one eye on me. There's that saying that, losers concentrate on, losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning. You know what I mean? Again, I'd be keeping my eye on the prize and pounding along. So that might be a little aggressive for some folks. I don't know. But you asked me about, being aggressive, and is that a good tactic? I don't know. I go to, what do you think? What do you think Jeff Bezos would say, right? He's known to be absolutely ruthless. What do you think Steve Jobs would say? Known to be absolutely ruthless, right? And I think some business coaches, because we attract folks that love Tony Robbins and, kind of the feel good folks, and that's a good thing, but maybe being a little bit more oomph in your face might be a good thing. So I don't know, Shoots. What do you think? That's my answer. How'd I do?
So what do you say to the local business coach who maybe doesn't know if there's other coaches in town? Because there likely are. But who is their biggest competition? Who is their biggest threat, do you think?
Nice. I'm going to say it's the accountant saying, oh, you don't need a business coach. It's the gal that works at the chamber who's not promoting them, maybe promoting somebody else, maybe promoting a different speaker. Like, that's a lot of the time. It's not your competition. Like Michael Jordan's competition was the opposing coach a lot of the time, right? Like, he's wondering he's not thinking about what Clyde the Glide's doing. He's thinking about the strategy of the other team, right? Like, what does Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? Well, I'll tell you, Michael Jordan's plan was to punch you before you punched him, right? So, yeah, that's the competition is often not who you think the competition is, and the local accountants and the people that not promoting you, etc. This is the competition, Shoots.
All right. So with all of that, close us out with the one thing from today's episode that people can take and implement into their business.
I think what I was just saying a minute ago, so look, I think you should operate in a way that is very aggressive, very straight, pull no punches, apologize to nobody, and just go in a straight line. And that's not to say that you're ruthless. I encourage you to be highly aggressive with your coaching. That's it. Highly, highly aggressive, and make no apologies. Like I said, run the events. Like I said, I'd be running, if I'm running your coaching business and I want to hit 7 figures and I want to be legit and I want to make a dent, and I truthfully believe that marriages, separations, divorces, depression, suicide is the thing that I'm out there to save people from, and I absolutely do. I would be running an event every single Tuesday morning at roughly 7 a.m. with about 10 to 25 people, and I would do it ruthlessly. And I would make tons of money as a result, but I would be doing it for the local folks, and I would be doing it. You know what I mean? Like, Ray Kroc made no apologies and did he like, and you might watch the movie and then think he was some sort of bad guy, and I probably somewhere in the middle where he probably did some wrong things, but he did some amazing things, and he made some very, very rich people along the way, as did Bill Gates and as did Steve Jobs, etc. You hear different stories out there, but I'll tell you what they were was ruthlessly aggressive. And the parallel that I was trying to give a minute ago, whether I did a good job or not, is that, the goon, when he steps on the rink, everybody's watching for him. When Michael Jordan stepped on the court, because he was similar to that, but in a different way, everybody knew where Jordan was on the court. You know what I mean? It's not like the coach, the assistant coach, the players on the bench, and the players on the court weren't keeping one eye on him, right? Because again, he was crazy. I want your competition going, oh my gosh, what's she doing now? What's he doing now? This guy's so aggressive. He's got all the clients. He's got all the prospects. He's got all the attention. He's got all the eyeballs. I don't know. That's what if you want to hit seven figures, I'd be being ruthlessly aggressive. 10 people every Tuesday at the Chamber of Commerce or a local event. That's what I'm trying to say, Shoots. Don't do your best. Do what it takes.
So I would add to that, and I would just simply say your inability to stay focused and your inability to get aggressive is 100% a direct result of a lack of clarity of your vision and the purpose behind that.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think, Shoots, you nailed it. I would totally agree with that, Shoots. Totally agree.
All right, and right there, see, folks, you gotta pull a Costanza and you got to end on a high. So I just got a compliment from Karl. So we want to thank you for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the King of the Caribbean himself. If you're not on the inside and getting those daily emails, you want more information on that accounting, how to read financial statements, you want to get a business like a group coaching program, all of the things. You want all the things to run a successful coaching practice. Visit focused.com. You got everything there. Subscribe to that. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it. Share with somebody that you think might make a great coach. And of course, leave a comment. And because we know that leaving reviews and all that stuff has a tremendous amount of weight when it comes to these streaming services. And that is it for another week. We will see you on the next episode. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.